of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, today we have a presentation, student engagement survey with Dr. Richardson and Donnie Adams, and we're excited that you're here today to present this to us, and I'm really looking forward to hearing it. Go for it.
It's my pleasure to introduce Donnie. Most of you know Donnie, and Donnie is certainly a great example of an engaged Fort Thomas student. I'm going to spare you the entire list of accolades. Donnie's a student that got a perfect score on the ACT. Donnie's a member of the All-State Orchestra. He's applied to MIT, Harvard, Princeton, to name just a few. Extremely engaged at Highlands as far as clubs that he attends. And one of those many clubs that he's been a part of has been the Research Club, and he's been doing this for about 2 years now. So it amazes me what Highlands students can do in a very, very short period of time, and I think you're going to be able to see that tonight as he talks about student engagement.
So earlier in this year, our students, 3rd through 5th graders, the middle school and the high school, took various surveys about their engagement in the Fort Thomas School District. So I'm just going to go from the elementary school to the middle school to the high school and cover those results. So starting with the 3rd through 5th graders, we had 603 responses, so that's covering the sum of all of those grades. There were 191 from Johnson, 258 from Moyer, and 154 from Woodville. And then there's the distribution for grade as well as sex. So starting off, this is on a scale of 1 to 4. These are some of the means that we focused on in order from most positive being a 4.0 down to least positive being a 1. So we kind of set a value of 3.5 as being we're looking good in that area, so we don't really, we can consider ourselves to be successful. So obviously family thinks school is important. We have a very supportive community, and all of the students feel or are very encouraged by their parents. Trying my best, again, is another one. All students do consider themselves to try their best. We definitely develop a strong work ethic. So these are just some of the examples that are all what we would consider to be very positive scores that show we're being successful in all of these areas. And then again, these are just some more, and you can see now we're starting to approach the 3.5, which is kind of where we define that cutoff for being very successful in an area to kind of having room for improvement in a specific area. So you can see it's starting to drop off with having the variety of technology, liking school, and then having students treated well and actually solving problems creatively is approaching that cutoff point. And then some of these were the survey responses that we had students below that 3.5. So feeling praised by their teachers or just praised in general. Being interested in learning, which is a big one, because if students, obviously this is all about engagement, if students aren't feeling engaged, they aren't interested in what they're actually learning, they obviously aren't going to be as prepared or as engaged in actually learning that material. Looking forward to coming, and school is fun, as well as homework being interesting. All of these really correlated a lot with whether students did or did not enjoy or felt engaged in their schoolwork. So with all of these, we looked at the correlations between whether students were engaged and how successful they were to how they viewed school, if they enjoyed it, if they enjoyed the work, if they found all of that interesting. So we see these as kind of big areas of improvement that we could kind of get more students involved. If we can make homework more interesting, for example, students will enjoy the work that they're doing a lot more, and in turn they'll probably learn a lot more from the content because they'll be much more engaged. So then again, this is for 3rd through 5th graders. So they were asked, this is on a scale of 1 to 3, they were asked to rank whether or not they enjoy each of these different activities. So obviously many of the students at the elementary school age, they enjoy getting up and moving around. So that's kind of something that we've done very well that allows them to get up and move around and be very active in their activities. You can see down towards the bottom here, both writing and presentations is something that you see students don't typically tend to enjoy as much as some of the other activities. So now this is going to go through each of the different stats and show just the percentage of students who disagreed. So obviously this is only 0.3% of students disagreed, saying that their family did not think that school is important. So obviously that's very positive. And then once again, this is going down just from how many students did not agree with this all the way up to when we have larger groups of students that did disagree. So then up here you can see these are some of the larger numbers. Looking forward to school, 13.7% of our students said that they did not look forward to school, which I'd say is a big room for improvement. If we can make school somehow more engaging, more interesting, then that students actually want to come, then they'll most likely be much more engaged in the classroom as well as at home when they're working on homework. They'll probably feel much more eager and excited to get back to their classwork. Same with schoolwork is fun. It's exactly the same as enjoying the schoolwork and having an interest in the homework that you're actually completing. The students will be much more engaged when they are working with something that is more engaging or that they view as fun or interesting. And then working with iPad, this one can be interpreted in multiple ways, because it could be that our students, because like we showed earlier, they are all trying their best. It could be that students try equally as hard as they do with the iPad or without, but it was still 22.7% of the students were not necessarily encouraged to try even harder when using the technology provided with them. And then again, 24% of students said that homework was not interesting, so that's a big area of improvement, that we can kind of get them more engaged at home as opposed to just pulling them in the classroom, teaching them there, and then sending them home with something they might not be very interested in. So then back to those categories, these are the percent of students who did not enjoy something. So you can see writing and presentations is 17.2% of our students did not enjoy writing, and then 22.9% did not enjoy presentations. So again, that can be a big area that we can kind of get our students writing at an earlier age. So this is 3rd through 5th graders, and this trend does tend to continue. And presentations, if we can kind of get them up in front of the class. I know Dr. Richardson and I have talked about, for example, show and tell at a very young age is more so involved in the classroom to get students up in front of their peers and making them more comfortable with that. But obviously still 23% of our students did not feel comfortable or did not enjoy getting up and actually speaking in front of their peers or in front of their teachers. So like I said, our students are they tend to react very positively. They know that their family enjoys school, they tend to enjoy school, they enjoy showing up, working with friends and everything, but there are still lots of room for improvements. Obviously they're trying their best, but they may not be enjoying what they're actually doing and working on, and because of that, may not be very interested in the work they're doing at home, which will translate over to school. And then obviously students are wanting to get up around and move, but still need some sort of encouragement or to get them more involved with both writing and presentations. And then because students were lower for reporting the work they receive, that can definitely relate to their success and engagement that they have within the school and at home. Because obviously our parents are very supportive of them, but if the work that's actually being given to them is not very engaging in any way, they aren't really interested in it, they aren't going to feel as encouraged or as eager to actually work on that and get it back to school. So this is going on to the middle school and high school. This is going to cover some of the statistics. You're going to see something called a p-value a lot. This is still on there. Okay, so we're going to talk about, this will be throughout all of these. A p-value is basically the probability that our data is incorrect in reflecting what the group. So for example, a p-value of 0.001 means that there is a 999 out of 1,000 chance that our data is properly representative of the overall group. So typically the smaller the p-value, the more representative this data is of the actual groups. So this is comparing the different elementary schools, and then it's just showing only the data that was actually significantly different. And I just want to start out by pointing out, while there are instances where a school is significantly lower, that just means, that's more so meaning consistently as opposed to a very big difference. For example, Johnson their students feeling less safe at school, that could be that the Johnson students consistently rated it just 1 point lower than the other two elementary schools. So it is significant in that they were always that 1 point lower, but it doesn't necessarily mean that students at Johnson were feeling unsafe at school while the other elementary school students were feeling safe. So these are just some of the instances. Safe at school, school is fun. You can just look at some of these. Obviously, being interested in learning and can learn is something that students should be very comfortable in no matter where they are. And then again, this is just some other instances. Woodville is their students actually tended to try harder when using the iPad, which is something that overall our students, we had a large percentage of students who were not actually trying harder. Again, like I mentioned, it could be they try equally as hard using both ways, but students at Woodfield did seem to get more encouraged when using the iPads, the technology presented to them. And then writing and presentations, you can see these are another two where the students were not as eager to perform these activities, but you can see which schools are higher or lower in each of those categories. So then we compared, instead of the schools, we compared the grade levels 3rd through 5th. And typically the trend is that students become less engaged over time. That continues from 3rd grade all the way up through high school. So liking school, it significantly increases with grade each year. Feeling praised, the 3rd grade, the students there feel much higher, or they feel much more praised than the students in the 4th and 5th grade. Again, school is fun. 3rd graders have much more fun at school than the 4th and 5th graders, and that just continues to decrease. And that is a trend that seems to continue throughout all of this data. So interested in learning, again, 3rd grade is more interested. 3rd grade says that they can learn. 3rd grade says that they treat each other well. All of that. The only instance, so presentations, that one did decrease with grades. So as students were getting older, they may have felt more pressure in presenting in front of their peers. They may have just been given more research to actually perform to give those presentations as opposed to just getting up and speaking. And then using the iPad for work, the 5th graders who, this was taken when it was relatively new, so the 5th graders would have been potentially less open to using the iPads. I'm sure or I would expect that to change as coming years once they are more familiar with it. And then comparing males to females, you can see girls are much higher in every single category, and that seems to be fairly consistent across all grade levels in schools as well. So the middle school and high school data is called the Gallup poll.
Let's just pause for a second, Donnie. Okay, so
Can we go back? There you go.
they just like the way that screen looks. Well, you know,
Actually, we don't like
as
the way
a
that.
former elementary,
We do not like the way that.
as a former elementary student, I can tell you that was definitely true then as well. You know, the girls always seem to do a little better. Are there questions about the elementary data in particular, board members, before we go on? I think it's a point out. So go ahead, Pat.
I was just going to say, some of the greatest significant differences are on this page. When you look at our p-values of 0.000, and the reason why it stops there is because that program doesn't go out any further, okay? So we don't truly know just how far that goes, but some of our largest p-values, which means we've got the greatest difference here, is between males and females. For things like, school is fun, I like school, I enjoy my schoolwork. So I think that this is a great opportunity for us to sort of take advantage of these learning differences between males and females, and maybe look at what are we doing to make learning just a little bit more fun, maybe a little bit more relevant for those boys. And that's really what this shows me when I look at this. It's just something to...
Yeah, and we tease about this, but this is very significant data, and quite frankly, some of our boys do struggle, I think, because of they want to move and they want to, they want their hands on things, and so the program, if you will, and our district, traditionally has been very program based at the elementary level. The reading program, the math program, and as you go through that over time, I think what we're seeing is that by the time they get up in the intermediate level in particular, there's some dissatisfaction at the student level with that. They want more interest, they want again, more movement, they want it to be fun, they want it to be engaging.
Well, and they want to
Relevant.
read different kinds of things, like
Exactly.
nonfiction, so there's
Right.
a lot to that.
So it is very valuable feedback for us, without question. And I'm not surprised really by what I'm seeing at all there.
I don't think there's any surprises here. What I would be interested in years out, because we've made specific efforts to make presentations a part of every grade level now, is will that change over time? So as kids become more, as they have more exposure to it, as they participate in it more, will those kids that don't like it now maybe move to the, yeah, it's okay? They're never going to love it, but maybe if you move them from the don't like to the it's okay, you've made a difference there. So I'll be interested to see over time if that component changes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting too, because and I know we pick the kids that present here, but they do an awesome job when
Right.
elementary kids come here.
Right.
So, and maybe adults don't like our presentations either, maybe you never will, but they're good at it.
Yeah, well, they didn't rate their own quality.
Sure.
They just said they don't like to do it, okay? And that, and there's a significant number of adults would say that too.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Right, so, I mean, that's
Part of personality.
That's not all that surprising. I think, though, this is a work in progress for us. I mean,
Sure.
we've made some changes, yes, but we have more to do to really make it a situation in which our kids are engaged in a meaningful way that's challenges them. Yes, we never will lose sight of that, but also engages them in such a way as that it's more enjoyable and more relevant, I think, for them. And this speaks to that a lot. This data speaks to that a lot.
So when you were looking at the data, anything that surprised you?
I wasn't expecting, for example, looking at the differences by sex, I was not expecting there to be every single category for girls to be higher. I mean, you guys sound like you have more experience and we're expecting that more. But I would say from my experience, I have seen instances where boys might be more engaged. Not in all of these, for example, writing, I would say reading and writing tended to be more something females are more engaged in, but I would say getting up and moving around and everything like that. I don't believe there was as much significance between that, while I would say boys may have been a lot more likely to do that from my own experience. So there were instances such as that I found somewhat surprising.
Karen mentioned that we started a few years ago having children in all grades. Now, giving presentations, and I know when my son and daughter were in elementary, they started writing just your basic things in kindergarten. Are we still starting that then, and all that? But I did notice that did pique my interest when I noticed that more boys were certified than girls, and that's what I thought. Well, maybe that's the reason. It is, but I thought it would have been. I thought their answers would have been different on those two subjects. Since, do you remember when we started doing that? Was it before you?
Before I came here.
Okay.
I'm actually surprised more boys filled out the survey than girls. That to me was also a surprise.
So I also think it has a lot to do with what we're asking them to write, what we're asking them to read, and what we're asking them to present. Because I think all of those things can make a difference. If they're really excited about a project, they're much more likely to enjoy presenting about it. So I think it has to do with the design of the assignments too.
If we have a group of boys at the elementary level that are building something, they'll have no problem telling you all about it, okay? It's just, it's choice and relevance and what you find enjoyable, and so that plays into this a lot.
Doesn't it? And most of the teachers are female, and we tend to teach the way we were taught and the way we enjoy to learn. And I think there's some education there, professional development opportunities for teachers to really learn about what it is that boys do enjoy and how to design assignments that give students choice, but also get them to practice the skills that we want them to practice. And I think really a lot of it has to do with the design and what we're asking them to do.
I look at. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I look at fear as a learned behavior. These third graders will come up here and they're bulletproof. They don't care. They'll talk to anybody, say anything. And then you have a little gap in there where they don't get up as much. When they get a little older, you don't have as many presentations, and then they get into high school, and then there's total fear. No presentations. Don't want to get up and talk in front of anybody. And that is such a key component to being successful in life. If there was a way to just keep getting them up over and over again, so they never really got out of a comfort zone, or they never knew anything any different. It was just constantly getting up and speaking publicly, constantly getting in front of people. Because that is the thing. I mean, I didn't care about speaking when I was a kid, but when I got older, I sure didn't want to stand up in front of anybody. I think it's repetitions. It's getting up over and over again and not having any lull in the grades at all, and just keep getting them out of their comfort zone.
That's part of it, but also part of it is adolescence too. Don't forget
Well-
the human development side of that. I mean, kids are, you know, you go from being, you know, a child that, you know,
care about how they look
everything's
and
within,
everything.
you know, and you're not really worried about peers, you're not worried about image, you're not worried about, but middle school, we see this crazy change, you know, with kids, and then to high school, you know, by the time you get to high school, it's like, I'm not risking that. I don't want anybody to see me and, you know, fail. So, I mean, there's an adolescence piece to that
And
too.
presentations isn't a gender difference, right?
I don't believe so.
So there's no gender difference in presentations on the screen.
Right.
And really, when you look back at another screen, when 25% disagree that they enjoy that, if you look at adult surveys, it's more like 80%.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Good point, that's a good
Yeah.
point,
And
Brett.
I actually think there are a couple things going on there. I think the presentations, it could be what you all said, a lot of people don't really like that, so, but I think the whole other piece is the enjoyment or engagement in their work that we're asking them to do. So I think there are actually two different topics that we're kind of intertwining there that really are separate.
I mean, the number one phobia in America is public speaking.
Right, sure.
But I think our opportunity is, by the time a student leaves Highlands High School, to make them as comfortable as possible. So that when they go out in the workforce, they can do something that the person that they're in competition with cannot. So the more we get people up and talking, the better off.
No doubt about it.
They can do it, they may not enjoy it, but they can
Right,
do it,
and that's
key.
You need to do something that scares you every day. And I think it's not just getting them up to speak publicly. That transitions into job interviews where you just have confidence in yourself. And that is, you may be the smartest tool in the shed, but if you can't convey that, if you can't look somebody in the eye and get that message clear, then you're only going to be so good. And we all have to sell ourselves, no matter what we do.
Middle school, high school.
Okay. So moving on to the middle school and high school, they took something called the Gallup data. So something just to point out, this is not representative necessarily of the entire United States because it is not randomly chosen. This was something where it's called a convenience sample, where the schools actually approached the data or the poll. But we still had 4 million public school students that actually did take the data. So there were 674 middle school students and 844 high school students that took the.
That's fairly high percentage for both schools, is it not?
If I can speak to that, we allow the students to actually take about 10 minutes in a class. So that's why we're getting such high ends, is because they're allowed and available. to
That's
take
good.
it.
So starting with the middle school, overall, it was very positive and compared to other schools that did take the survey. So again, there is that trend from 6th to 7th to 8th grade, the student engagement and their kind of positivity towards school and the environment that they're in is tending to go down, and that continues into high school. So just some specific values, this is on a scale of 5. The confidence they will graduate, that was a 4.79, these are the means. Having good friends, our students do feel like that they do have friends who are there, so that could be something that will increase their engagement because you obviously will want to go to school to see your friends when you may not be doing so at home. And then this one was similar to the elementary school data, that they do have parents and adults that will support them. So this could be teachers, could be the staff, it could be anyone that they would consider an adult that does care for them. Feeling safe at school, that was something that we did see the comparison between the elementary school data, and all of these again are still very high and positive for the students. And then for activities, clubs, and sports, we were very high. It was a 4.71 out of 5. So our students are very engaged. So while they may not be as interested in specific activities at school, overall they are still staying at school for all of these other activities to make sure that they are participating in whatever they find engaging. And then their entrepreneurial spirit is something interesting that we found that we may not have been expecting, in that in both the middle school and the high school, the students were not as eager to, say, start their own business and work with finances and be prepared for everything like that. They were more had the mindset of, okay, I will do what I'm told. I want to go in and have be told what to do, but I'll still work very well at that. So we're kind of developing like the worker bee mentality as opposed to someone who wants to go off, start their own business, take risks and everything like that. So then looking at the high school data, again, we had some very positive responses. Confidence they will graduate. Obviously that goes up as students approach their senior year because they now view that I only have 2 more years to go versus I only have 6 more years to go. Good friends, again, was still very high. Students in both the high school and middle school felt that they were coming to school and did have peers around them who they would consider friends. Again, a lot of these are very similar, feeling safe at school, having good friends, having adults at school that care about them. All of those were very positive and viewed highly in our students' eyes. Engaged in clubs and activities, again, is very high. While it may not have been as high in the middle school versus high school, it's still all of our students across both schools are actually staying at school, working in whatever activities they find engaging, and kind of taking some level of that onto their own shoulders as opposed to expecting the school to engage them entirely. They are participating in clubs that they may find engaging to kind of continue that interest themselves. And then again, the entrepreneurial spirit is a bit different from what we would have expected. We're kind of developing that worker bee mentality, as I said earlier, and that students are not planning to start their own business. This was a scale out of 5, so 2.56 out of 5 is barely above that halfway point for students that want to take those risks to start their own business as opposed to going somewhere where the job already exists. It's much less risky, but it also may not have as many rewards. And then learning to save and spend money was something that also surprised me. Because I feel like a lot of our students are getting very well prepared, but then seeing that was a specific piece of data where 3.66 out of 5, that was talking about our students saying that they were not necessarily prepared to deal with finances, which is such a big, important aspect of life that they'll have to deal with after they leave. So some takeaways just from the middle school and high school. Obviously there were those trends between going from 6th grade to 7th grade to 8th grade and then 9th down to 12th. They typically were tending to get more negative towards their engagement and how interesting they found school. But again, we still had many positive like traits in the students. So they were confident that they will graduate. Was one of the few that actually did go up as they approached their senior year. They had lots of friends, support from their families. They felt safe at school, and they were very active in many extracurricular activities. But one opportunity that we can really work on is kind of developing that entrepreneurial mindset. So getting students willing to take risks in order to gain those big rewards, to actually develop and innovate as opposed to just going into a job that already exists where they can kind of safely go through their work career as opposed to potentially rising up to being the creator of their own company or pursuing something like, for example, their extracurricular activities. They're focusing on what they want to do, but then when they're actually going into their career, they aren't as interested in starting their own business because there is that risk factor. And then we obviously need to find ways to make writing and presenting fun again. That isn't something that really goes away as they age. And like you mentioned, it actually gets more and more negative as students get older. They might be less eager to present in front of their peers, feeling pressure from that. But again, those are both very big skills that they would need once they leave high school. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
On the feeling safe in school, was that feeling safe inside of school or outside forces? I mean, how was the question worded?
I believe the question was worded, I feel safe at school. So I would interpret that as feeling safe while you're in school. But it could also mean, for example, in extracurricular activities on the school campus or just in the area around the school.
The great news on that variable was it was quite high, that they do feel safe. There were significant differences between the schools, but again, those differences, even though they were significant, even the schools that shot lower were very high as well. So that was very nice to see. Our kids do feel safe here. They do feel supported here, for sure.
Safe and supported, so.
Right, for sure. And the one variable that stood out more than any was our kids come to school with families who support them, and they feel supported by their families, not only financially, but feeling like their parents will help them with school. So it's just a huge resource that we have.
I think that's a huge factor. I mean, it's not just the building that it is that whole triangle that we talk about. It's parents, teachers, community. It's all of that tied together, and that's a key component to show that the kids feel supported at home and they feel supported by their families. So that's not nothing that's in our control, but we benefit from that.
Absolutely.
What do you think about that entrepreneur data? I mean, that seems
well,
unusual for
well,
what we do.
Actually, it's not. And while they were surprised by that, I'm not surprised by that at all. And I don't think one administrator in here is surprised by that, because we actually this is something we've been talking about for a couple of years. We brought in 2 years ago a professor from University of Oregon by the name of Young Zhao, and his book is how to create entrepreneurial spirit in students, creating world-class students with entrepreneurial spirit. And his whole spiel is that, in China, which is his homeland, they're basically producing robots in their educational system. But yet sometimes our politicians want us to mimic the Chinese, because as they compare international tests and so on and so forth, why don't we score as high as China? Well, he offers as evidence the fact that 1 out of every 5 people on Earth live in China, right? 1% of the world's patents are held in China. 1%. They do well on tests. They're not terribly creative. They're not innovative. They're not risk takers, all right? And so, in a system like ours that has been very traditional, there's a lot about a traditional school experience which discourages students from being risk takers. Oh, I might get a B.
Sure.
I'm not gonna, they don't want to risk that. By the time they get to be juniors and seniors, they know how to play school very, very well. All right, and it's all risk and reward to them, and they really push back a little bit on experiences. The seniors at junior and I have sometimes push back a little bit when we say, we're not going to tell you exactly what we want you to do.
Sure.
They're like, what? We used to be told what to do.
They're used to the recipe. They're used to the script, and they follow the script very well.
So if you've gone through 12 years of that, why should we be surprised that they would see themselves going to work in a company where they would be in a similar circumstance? We shouldn't be surprised by that at all. Okay.
No.
This is an area where those 3 components can start to come together, because the theme as I looked at the data in even more depth on our end, that risk strand was the one that is our greatest opportunity.
It is.
And as you see programs that are presented to students that are different, that are innovative, that are more open-ended, there's a lot more resistance to that in many, many ways. And so I wasn't that surprised with presentations either. Our kids interact with adults better than most kids that I see, but they don't necessarily see that. That hasn't been reinforced. That hasn't been the safe harbor that they have.
But the counterpoint, and I agree with everything Gene said, the counterpoint to that is, especially as the kids get older in high school, they need to do school well, and they need to do tests well to go to college and to get money. And I'm speaking from a parent standpoint here, and those kids think that too. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I'm saying that's the mindset
Well,
too.
they don't get money when they go to college. They get money when they become employed, right? Just so you know, I've got 2 that just finished college and they didn't get any money. Matter of fact, it's all pouring for me profusely right now. All right.
I'm aware.
So they get money when they get gainful employment.
No, but that is the script, and that's the traditional.
That is the script, and that's what they think, and that's how the system is set up, and it should be without question. But within the scope of that, we have to engage them in experiences which allow them to which encourage them to take risks and encourage them to solve real-world problems and explore opportunities which can lead to real-world implications.
100% agree. They have to be able to fail and be in an where they feel safe to fail.
Fear of failure. That's right. Because, every great entrepreneur has failed, at least once usually.
But multiple times.
Yeah, and it would be more of a paradigm shift. It seems like we're always teaching, okay, traditional thinking, you go get a job, you end up with a job, it's a job. Now, what if we taught everybody to be entrepreneurs and start their own business, and maybe some of you will end up in a job? Just a complete paradox.
That's it.
But it really has, at least when I was always there, go get a job, go work for somebody.
But this is the whole goal too that we're working on. There's a committee working on that are looking at G2, excuse me.
G2.
And all of that kind of
Gatorade
just goes together, though. You got the ability to present, the ability to take risks, the ability to overcome fear, think entrepreneurial, start a business, maybe you fail, maybe you don't. Just not so much that traditional safe mentality.
And colleges are beginning to look at other things too. And, you know, there are a lot of kids who get a 36 on the ACT. I mean, it's rare, but not that rare. There are a lot of kids who have 4.0s. So if we can provide them with experiences where they can create and innovate and they can write their college essay on that, that will be what sets them apart and gets them into those top schools, because it is so competitive otherwise. So, you know, I think it can be, we can still do the best of what we've done, but also give them opportunities that really allow them to do things that they've never done before and set themselves apart.
Absolutely. This is, you know, it's very good information. It's, you know, it's very positive overall. I mean, it really is. It's incredibly positive overall. But there certainly are opportunities for us. You know, there are a lot of opportunities, and I think we need to take advantage of those and really try to build, you know, build an experience. Because it's not a program, it's an experience, you know, that our students can thrive in, you know, as we prepare them for their future. So,
I think we have learned over the years, Brad will speak to this more than I have, you cannot rest on our laurels. We can't stay to the script and think that script is going to last us going into the future. We are trying to change things and innovate, but yet keep our students successful. And so I think we've seen that over time here, that we are willing to do those kinds of things and be leaders in education. So
It may be as simple as switching our conversation with our own kids from what grade did you get to what did you learn?
that's right.
And if that conversation shifts, then you have a seismic shift. And even as an educator who sees that, I'm still tempted to ask my 10-year-old, what grade did you get? And it really needs to be, what did you learn?
What did you learn? That's right. What did you learn? What can you do with it?
Donnie, that was great.
So,
Good job.
Real World
Thank you,
Solutions, come back next month with answers. How do we get enthusiasm to trend upward as they get older? More entrepreneurialism, make school more fun, and better presentations, more presentations.
Donnie is actually on our committee that is looking
working on it.
at all of that. So he's one of our student representatives and has brought great insight to that committee.
Yes, and he's done a great job.
This is excellent, great information, really appreciate it, and appreciate that you were able to get the buy-in and get so many people to participate too. So, good stuff.
Thanks for going through all. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Got a shirt for you too.
Donnie, you get a shirt,
There you go,
Donnie.
wear this when you're presenting everywhere and in our school. There you go.
You got
Rich tradition.
photos on?
I still don't think it's gonna fit you. We'll give it a shot. There, probably will.
There you go.
Thanks a lot, appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Donnie.
Thanks,
Thanks for that, buddy.
Thanks for coming up.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
Patrick.
All right, our community forum is actually a time where we ask anyone in the audience who might have something to share with us that might be a topic we would bring to the board in a future meeting, possible discussion item, but we do actually have someone tonight who has filled out our slip. Connie, wherever Connie is. There's Connie.
Connie.
Connie wants to know if FTIS has a position on Senate Bill 70 or House Bill 103 regarding charter school legislation in Kentucky. Yeah, we've got a couple hours.
Well, what we have not done, Connie, is we haven't taken any action as a board on those topics. We've certainly discussed it a lot. As a matter of fact, we had a working session on Thursday of last week in which we reviewed all the legislation which has currently been proposed in our General Assembly related to education. Those two bills were among the conversation. You know, there are a lot of different ways to look at that. First of all, we as a school district, we're not afraid of competition at all. If that's, if it comes down to that, and quite frankly, it would be hard for any of us to say we're against school choice. We have students from 5 different counties and 2 states who attend here. Donnie lives in Amelia, okay, Ohio. All right. So to say that we're against school choice would be sort of hypocrisy, if you will. That being said, there are some things about the charter school legislation that proposed legislation that do concern us, and it's mostly where's the money come from?
Right.
Where does the money come? Show me the money. And no one has really been able to flush that out just yet, in terms of how are you going to pay for it. Public schools in Kentucky are currently funded at 2008 levels, essentially. We have not seen any increase in SEEK funding. $3,900 per child is what we receive in Fort Thomas in SEEK, okay? $3,900 per child. We spend probably over $9,000 per child to educate them. You all, the local taxpayers of this community, make up that difference, okay? And thank goodness that you do. So the question becomes, I don't think they're printing any new money, all right? So how do we pay for charter schools, even if they're in Jefferson and Fayette County, which has been some of the proposal? How do we pay for those? Certainly SEEK money, state money alone won't do it. Will there be a charter fund established? If so, where does that money come from? Does it come from that pot of money that is currently going to Fort Thomas, even if it's not enough? Those are the big concerns I think that we have about it. I mean, it's not so much the schools themselves,
And I do want to say, Jean is in constant contact with Will Schroeder and Joe Fisher, our 2 representatives, our representative and our state senator. And so, I think all of us have also taken the opportunity, if we've had that chance, to talk to both of them as well. But I know that Jean is in constant contact with both of them to try to make sure that they understand those issues that Jean just described. And there is a couple of other bills too that are floating out there that have potential impact on us also. And so I think I encourage the local community to contact Will and Joe also. I mean, it's helpful for them to hear from you guys, not just us, not just Jean, but they need to hear from all of us, is what I would say. And I encourage all of us to make those contacts, whether it's email or phone. Or I know some people went, I was unfortunately unable to go, but I know the Northern Kentucky Legislative Caucus was Saturday, and I heard that there was a large group out there against charter schools. So, I encourage people to get involved. That's what we need.
I think the other thing is that it's kind of a cart before the horse scenario here. They don't really know what this model is going to look like.
Right.
They just say, oh, charter schools. People want charter schools. Okay,
Right.
well, great. I mean, what does that look like?
Right.
Where are they going to be? Who's going to authorize them? Who's going to run them? How are you going to fund them?
And a lot of those answers aren't in those bills.
Right, how are they going to be regulated? Nobody knows. They just know that somebody said, we got to have charter schools. It's a political decision. So I think we are being very proactive relative to talking to our politicians and everybody else involved. But until you know what this thing looks like, it's hard to even weigh in on it.
The other problem is it's not a budget session. So I don't know how they're going to approve them and not reopen the budget without just saying you get the student SEEK money. I mean, I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Well, I think you probably wouldn't see one, if there is charter legislation approved, you probably wouldn't see one until
Until after the session.
the 17-18 school year, probably. So, and you do have a budget session, it's January, so, but, yeah, there's not consensus down there on those bills. I don't think either of those bills will be passed. There will likely be charter legislation passed, but it will be some compromise, probably. But it might not, too, just because there's not consensus. I can tell you from speaking with our representatives that there is not consensus, and they're not necessarily on the same page with the governor's office about it either. So it's a short session. We'll see what happens.
Does that help?
Yep, thank you.
Great, sure.
I appreciate you asking the question.
Absolutely.
Good question.
Appreciate you
Relevant
guys
topic, that's for sure.
getting involved too. It can't just be us.
Action items, Jerry, several project updates.
We'll start with the Highlands High School renovation Phase 4. That is the field house. As we've previously reported, we have continued to work toward getting all outstanding items done. We are down to one, and Century has indicated that Air Rush plans on being out, or at least it's their understanding they plan on being out this week to address that. That if they do address it and the next several rains bear out that is fixed, then we are real close to closing that particular project out. As mentioned previously, we have agreed to release some, but not all, of the remaining money. The remaining work is valued at several $100s, but we are asking to hold $10,000 in retainage left and pay Century $34,452.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And I guess you told them that, and they know we're holding it.
Oh yeah, they've been asking for all of it for a few months, and the way I phrased it was, you guys are kind of lucky you're getting what you're getting.
Good.
Next project, the Phase 4 gymnasium. Again, just a few outstanding items left. There was a significant balance owed, $291,000 that we were holding because there was such a lengthy list of small items. They did get a great amount of that work done. There are very small little things left, some of which they've tried to get done, but some of this work is difficult to do when students are in the building, because some of the work will do things like set fire alarms off, and we really don't want that during class. So there are a couple little things left that we will get done. We have agreed to release about 50% of the money that's remaining, since it was such a large amount. So we're asking for a pay application of $143,387.47.
Okay, need a motion on that payout to Century.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
In the Moyer Elementary renovation project, things are going very well. Burrell continues to make rapid progress. Walking through the project, you see progress daily. The third floor is completely drywalled, finished, painted, and then we're getting ready to start ceiling grid. The second floor, they have started ceiling grid. The first floor, they're getting close to finishing all the drywall. The areas that are finished are painted. There's painting on the gymnasium ceiling, cafeteria. The tile floor has gone down in the kitchen and in most of the restrooms. They are fully on their schedule and expect to release the building, the addition, to us over the summer, to where we can start moving in the last week of July.
Also, on that, just today, the new executive director of the SFCC asked about the possibility of coming up and actually doing a site visit in April 20th. They'd like to do a walkthrough and see the project, so that's good. Hopefully they'll be impressed with it, maybe, and then we will. And then hopefully they'll be impressed with what they see, and I'm going to hand them lots of stuff about Johnson while they're here too. Hit them with that hard.
Give them directions past that building to get to Moyer.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, you see this?
Come up this way.
Close this way. You have to go way around town.
Yeah, okay.
So we do have a couple action items. We have a pay application to Morel Construction for $599,892.30.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
And then next, we have the Moyer Elementary Phase 2 asbestos abatement specifications. Normally, we have these approved by the board, and then we send them to Frankfurt for their approval so we can put them out to bid. Our consultant on that has already sent them to Frankfurt, and we got the letter today approving them. So we're actually a month ahead of where we thought we'd be. So we're going to still ask you for approval of these specifications tonight. However, we're not going to send them out for about a month, because in the advertisement for bid, we talk about a pre-bid meeting at Moyer during spring break, when they can come, look above ceiling, and really check everything out to put their bid together. And their bids are not due till April 13th for you to approve at the April meeting. And our concern is that if we send them too early, they'll just kind of get lost in the shuffle. So we are going to ask you to approve these tonight. My thought was they'd still have to go to Frankfurt, but Frankfurt has already approved.
So basically, by approving tonight, we're ready to go.
We're ready to advertise as
Everything
soon
to
as
advertise as soon as we decide to
put it in the paper.
Good.
So what goes into that? Asbestos abatement?
This is in the area of the building that's going to be renovated.
Yeah.
There are in areas that are currently encapsulated, where before Morel can go in there and do the renovation, it's our responsibility to hire a contractor to go and remove things such as asbestos-containing floor tile, which is most of it, which is underneath all the carpet in there.
Right.
And it's not necessarily the floor tile itself, but in a lot of locations, it's the adhesive underneath the floor tile. There's a few areas inside pipe chases that are currently closed, but we're going to remove that wall. So before we can remove that wall, we have to open that up and remove that material. It's all material we've known about, and it's a similar process to what we've done in every other renovation project and addition project we've done.
Just want to point out to those of you in the audience who maybe have Moyer kiddos, that is not problematic unless you disturb it. When you start, tearing things up, that's when that asbestos becomes a problem.
We've done it in every building that we've done so far.
Yes,
Right.
yes. I use words like encapsulated and assume that everybody knows what they are. I've been using it so long.
I know.
I figured they got your drift, but I mean, as long as you don't tear the floor tiles up, then what's underneath them is not problematic, or inside the walls, or inside the ceilings, or so on and so forth.
Go.
All right, need a motion to approve the specifications for asbestos abatement at Moyer.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then finally, just an update on the local planning committee, and I believe it was September of 2016, we asked you to approve a draft of the district facility plan. You approved it, but before we had the opportunity to submit it to Frankfurt for their feedback, they sent us feedback saying, we'd like for you to change this piece, this piece, this piece. We spent several months going back and forth, because as I expressed to Frankfurt, I really don't want to take it to the board again until you're satisfied. So, I'd already asked for your approval once, and then they wanted me to make changes. We worked until we had a document that we felt comfortable asking your approval, that it would go to them and gain their approval. So we're asking, one, tonight that we get your approval on the draft district facility plan as amended and reapproved by the local planning committee. And then I guess we can do that part first.
I just want to point out that it's laughable that we can only put $13 million for Johnson Elementary on there, but I understand.
Joe, get it done for 13.
Oh, yeah. Well,
No prevailing wage.
keep in mind that the construction cost, the actual construction cost on Moyer was $19 million. So, which is, essentially what you can include here. So, with prevailing wage being gone,
You're still not going to
13,
get to 13.
you're not going to get to 13.
Nice try,
You're not going to get to 13 million, but it at least brings it a little closer to that than it would have been otherwise. It'd be way off. It would have been way off otherwise.
All right, approval of district facility plan as amended.
So moved. Is that what you wanted to say, Jerry?
Yes.
Second.
What it says there. All those in favor?
Aye. Karen and Jeff?
Opposed?
And then the second part, which doesn't necessarily need an action item, but to discuss the next phase, which is a public hearing conducted by the board that we are recommending that be conducted prior to the next regularly scheduled board meeting. And then we have to get the appointment of a hearing officer.
Totally good.
I have someone in mind.
I'd like to recommend John Stratton for that.
I say that.
Thank you. I'm honored. And excited.
I can see the enthusiasm, John.
I can let Mr. Stratton know that the last 3 times this process has taken place, a grand total of 0 people have shown up to that public hearing.
We don't need a motion on that, but
No.
we can do it. So we'll just do it before our March meeting?
Yep, as long as you guys agree to that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Before you get down there, the warranty agreement, I'll call it, that we discussed on Thursday, have you had any conversations with Joe about that in lieu of our continuing to hold?
With Joe, no.
Issues that we've had?
Joe and I were going to have a discussion about that after the Moyer Progress meeting tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good, just let me know.
Okay.
Good deal. Anything else?
Thanks, Jerry.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Ms. McGee, declaration of surplus technology.
She's got more equipment to get rid of.
We keep uncovering equipment.
Seems like we're doing this every month.
Seriously though, not in this agenda, but I wanted to let you know, if you remember last month, that I came and asked for approval of which vendor to use for our previous surplus. And if you remember, the vendor we chose was the one that didn't give us the best price, but gave us a range. So I was just going to let you know that we ended up making almost $500 more than what that other bidder would have given us. So
That was a
we did well on that. And we continue to uncover things that we have not had a chance to surplus. Peggy, do you have that chart? Thank you. So what we would like to do this time is we're going to chunk these items because we don't feel like one vendor would want all of them. So we're going to chunk them. We would like to ask for bids on different groups. And you can see, I think we have 5 groups. So there's group 1, group 2 is iPads. Well, yeah, she went way too fast.
It was just 4. I think
Of course, if this were interactive, I could do it myself.
Swordboard there.
No,
You guys replaced that
They were
one.
interactive. It was that thing out in the hall.
Okay.
Group 3 is cell phones. These are old cell phones. Group 4 and group 5 are networking equipment items. And so.
It's an all or nothing on the group, right?
All or nothing on the group, yes. Quantity bid for the group, which will help pull in some, we think, some good prospects for.
What did you say group 4 was? What are those?
Those are cell phones.
Group 4.
No, group 4. Oh, no, this is network stuff.
Network stuff.
Yeah. Network switches and GBICs. I thought there was a group 5, is there not? They're just 4?
There's a second page.
Yeah, it's right there at the top.
Yeah.
It's that little bit box.
Okay. There we go.
Networks.
Those are wireless controllers and wireless access points, so.
Refresh my memory again what we're doing to market this offering.
I have a group, like a distribution group of people, of businesses that contact me through the year to say, hey, we buy surplus equipment. And so I blast an email out tomorrow saying that you've approved this, and I give them documentation of where they can go and see the items, and it's just kind of standard. Jerry and I share a form that we send out.
No other schools.
And it's on our website.
No other schools would be interested in it. Right?
Actually, we do have a school district that's interested in the networking stuff.
Okay.
So, which it's a win-win for them because they don't have to pay full price, and then we can make a little money.
Okay, need a motion to approve the identified technology equipment as surplus property. Karen's in a hurry today.
There's a basketball game on.
Do I have a second?
Basketball game.
All those in favor, please.
Tomorrow.
Aye, opposed.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Yes, in Kentucky this morning.
Funny, Strat.
They got a team?
No!
All right, so anyway,
Staffing guidelines.
Staffing guidelines. It's the time of the year where we begin to do our allocations for schools. I'll start meeting with, actually next week, with principals next week to discuss allocations, and all allocations are based on the staffing guidelines. And as I mentioned to you in our working session on Thursday, the major change besides the dates on the 17-18 staffing guidelines deals with, at the elementary level, the fact that what was considered an itinerant before are now, in terms of art, music, world language, right? Just those three are now, each school has their own. Okay. I said world language, right? So each school has their own. So we took them off of that itinerant list, and they'll just be reflected in their on their allocation sheet as district supplied, you know. But just a slight change. That's it.
Is that it for staffing guidelines?
That's it.
Discussion items, board committee updates.
Well, we do need to approve those staffing
Oh,
guidelines.
sorry.
The only question I would
I
have
figured
is,
Karen would have just jumped on that.
sorry. I was just thinking, the only thing I would add, it says elementary schools 1 for media specialist, but doesn't list it by school. Do we need to list that out? Because like the assistant principal's listed out, even though it's different percentages, but it might be just might be plain semantics right now.
Each school is one.
Right, but never mind.
Oh, so Woodville, Moyer.
It doesn't say, it says elementary schools 1 media specialist. It doesn't say
Oh,
one
not
per
one per school.
school. It doesn't say 3, it says 1.
I see what you're
So,
saying.
do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That it could be a miscommunication
You're
kind of thing. So I just,
Big timer.
Yeah, we don't want to split one 3 ways.
correct.
No, that
But
was-
looking at it that way, it looks like you're splitting 1 3 ways.
Yes.
Why is that bad?
Unless you're an assistant principal.
You can make it a 3 or
Right.
I get that.
Just put 1 in each school or whatever, sorry.
Can we approve the staffing guidelines?
So,
With that amendment?
with that amendment?
Yeah, we will. We'll make
Staffing
that,
So moved
guidelines
with the
with
change.
amendments.
we'll make that change.
Second.
We have a second.
Good point.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now on to discussion items. Board committee updates. I did one last month. So does anybody have one for this month?
The foundation dance is March the 4th, so it's before our next meeting, so please, it's Hoops March Madness, basically. It's basketball themed this year, so please support the foundation and get your tickets. It's at the mess hall again, right? Yes, so.
If anybody wants to buy tickets through me, I may or may not have pictures of Gene Kirshner and Ann basketball uniform.
Oh, that would be helpful.
All right.
Yearbook pictures!
There we go.
That's scary.
Rusty Griswolds are the band, correct? So yes, so please support the foundation.
Not really.
All right. Approval of consent agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I guess it was easy to figure out who made all the motions tonight, wasn't it? I think she thinks she's going to chair, isn't she? All right.
No.
Any other business this
The
evening?
motion when I was chair.
All right, if not, meeting is adjourned. Are we adjourned?
Yes, sir.
No score thing.
I didn't
I'm
get
recording
any.
it.
I didn't get any.
Cardinals playing.
My husband skipped Lions Club.
Big game tonight.
In another year, that might have
I want to give you